It still says off air. Still
okay.
No,
Now.
Well,
Now.
hello and welcome right now. Starting now. Keep all this in, it's gold. All right. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Tom Piccolo, and this is a lot of basketball. But first, I'm joined again by my pals, Kenny and Greg Poon and Jake Storiali. Guys, we've gotten some feedback from all of our listener after our last podcast, and the people demand that we have just more normal human interactions before jumping into basketball. So let's commence that right now. Jake, how are you doing with your life?
I'm miserable. I haven't slept in 5 days because of the puppy Noodle the Doodle dog. And I as we discussed in our game planning session, I had my dinner at 7-Eleven tonight. Besides that, I mean, I'm kind of exactly what you picture a person that would be doing a podcast would look like. So I'm good. Back to you in the booth, Tom.
And this is why we don't do that. So let's just jump right into basketball. So we're taping this on a Thursday night. It's after Game 3 of the NBA Finals was last night. It was the first good game of the series. The Warriors pulled out a thriller in Cleveland, winning 118-113. Kenny, I'm gonna start with you. I'm curious. What did you think of Game 3?
Well, certainly the most exciting of the games. We got down in the final few minutes, and
I'll start because I kind of sent us off a bad path.
You sort of derailed us a little bit. But we needed this. This is the kind of candid stuff that Evapps wanted.
Our fan wanted. I mean, Game 3 in Believeland. Cleveland had him pinned. Let's be honest about it. I mean, we won't talk too much about it. Maybe we will. I don't know. That's the podcast. But the refs, I personally thought the refs were bad. Let's say that. I think Cleveland got, I'd say 70-30% of the calls. I know that's a little high. LeBron and Kyrie balled out. Kyle Korver stepped up till everything except the last minute of the game. JR played like a normal basketball player. And I mean nobody had for Golden State to be out of a game, or for Cleveland to win, I should say. I assumed that gonna have to have an absolute dud, just complete dud, and that didn't happen. Curry, Durant, and Clay all played ball. I guess you could say Draymond was in foul trouble and kind of out of it. But I mean, they all were there, and Cleveland hung. But man, at the end, couple tough possessions, which I'm sure we'll go through, and I'll let you boys go now.
Yeah, Greg, I'm curious. Kenny, we'll get back to you. I think you've gathered yourself. But Greg, I'm curious what you thought was different from the Cavs' perspective. What did they do differently to be in this one down the stretch?
I mean, they finally got some production from somebody else. J.R. Smith finally showed up, 5 for 10 from 3. Kyle Korver hit a couple shots. I know he missed the big one, but just being able to make them guard him at least, that's helpful. And that opens it up for LeBron and Kyrie. And, I mean, LeBron and Kyrie were both otherworldly last night. I mean, the finishes Kyrie has at the rim is just something that you just can't believe when you see it. And so you got those two guys going off. And then Kevin Love kind of filled in the Tristan Thompson role from last year, just absolutely pounding the glass, deflating the other team, deflating the Warriors with some offensive rebounds. I know there was one time when he got one offensive rebound and two fouls in a row on against the Warriors. So Cleveland had four shots on one possession. Unfortunately, they didn't score, but that's still deflating for the Warriors. So you had the two star players stepping up. You had two role players hitting shots, and then you had one guy pounded the glass, which seemed to be the formula last year. So it almost worked last night, but not quite.
And Kenny, you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, and I think to touch on a couple things that both Jake and Greg said. In terms of the foul trouble that Jake was talking about, I think definitely in the first half the bigs especially of the Warriors were having trouble staying out of foul trouble. I think both JaVale McGee and Zaza had 3 fouls in the first half. Draymond Green, I think, had 3 fouls in the first half. And in the end, as tough as that was, and as ugly as it was to hear whistles every possession, it may have ultimately helped out the Warriors because you got Zaza out of the game.
Lost Kenny a little there.
What's that?
Was that Jake? Sorry, you cut in and out a little bit.
I think he said he lost Kenny a little bit there, but that might have been his fault.
Jake is in Denver on Mountain West time out there. And he had dinner at 7-Eleven, as he mentioned, so he's probably not doing so hot.
So yeah, like I was saying, you got Zaza out of the game after those early fouls, and when I looked at the stat sheet, I was kind of amazed that Zaza only played, I think, 13 or 14 minutes because it felt like he was out there for an eternity. I mean, every time you looked up, he was doing something stupid, whether it was on the last possession of, I think it was the first quarter, just grabbing someone on a screen and giving possession back to the Cavs, or, taking a terrible shot. It's like, what are you doing, man? And ultimately the foul trouble that he got in, had to take him out of the game. And then I think just something that Greg said in the last podcast that we got out of the Cavs today was or I guess it was yesterday, you gave Kyrie and LeBron the ball and you let the ball out. And he asked, how much offense do you actually need out of Kevin Love if you're going to have Kyrie and LeBron ball out? And the answer is very little. What did Kyrie go for yesterday? 1 for 9, or Kevin Love went 1 for 9, and they still, by most accounts, should have won that game up until the last 3 minutes. And I feel good about the Cavs in that I didn't think they could have a game like this where you had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green all have pretty productive games, and they were still in it. And by all accounts, they probably should have won it. But they were in the game and they had the chance to win, even with that situation. So I think it's hard to take away a positive when you go down 3-0 and you're looking to about to get swept. But I actually had some positive feelings for the Cavs after that game.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was as close to a moral victory as you can have after going down 3-0 in the finals. I've got a couple numbers here that I think are sort of interesting. The Warriors outscored the Cavs by 11 in fast break points, and that's not surprising given that that's what the Warriors do. They like to get out in transition. They like to go small. But the more surprising stat is that they outscored Cleveland 16-4 in second chance points. And that's just not something you expect to see given the Cavs, perceived advantage inside, rebounding the basketball. Steph Curry had 5 offensive boards. And, that ultimately was a huge difference in this game. Jake, going to you here, I'm curious what you saw from Tristan Thompson. If you thought, we talked about him as a major factor coming into this game as trying to turn things around. Do you think that just he's completely ineffective against this Warriors team? And if not, how do you get him playing better?
And I think you were the Tristan Thompson fan. Don't send any fingers my way.
That could be.
What wasn't the stat we were talking about earlier today that Steph Curry had more rebounds the last game than Tristan Thompson has the whole series? Did I say that right?
I think that's right.
There's no words. You're Tristan Thompson. You're supposed to be one of the at least best top 2 offensive rebounder in the NBA, and just a huge body. Thing I know, I'll say we harped on it, but I think it's mostly you, Tommy Two-Tone, was Tristan Thompson's defense. And I mean, when I'm going through plays that won and lost the game, when they subbed Thompson in after he'd been on the bench for most of the fourth quarter, etched the Draymond Durant, LeBron switch on to Draymond, and Durant just took Tristan Thompson to the hole so easily. And it's honestly, I'm blown away that that's easy for Kevin Durant, because I'm very much not a 7-foot pro basketball player yet, at least.
You're not?
But I mean, Thompson just, you can have him out there when Zaza's out there. And as Ken mentioned while I interrupted him, I believe before, I mean, Zaza Pachulia was one of the best players for the Cavaliers last night. So if you want to put Tristan out then, that's fine. But yeah, otherwise you got to have K-Love out there and on the boards, which you gotta appreciate with all the talk about, you know, they're just 3-point shooting and all this, that, and the other. Tristan Thompson, yeah, he's you try to get him out there when you can. If you see Zaza or you see JaVale and you're Ty Lue, yes, go. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, he's not helping you.
Yeah, Jake, that's a great point, bringing up that play that Durant, he kind of hit that runner going to his left. That was with 1:15 left in the fourth quarter, to bring the Warriors back within 2. So it put the score at 113, 111 Cavaliers. And I mean, Durant was really sensational down the stretch there. We talked for a lot of the game that he was kind of quiet. You know, the previous 2 games he'd just blown up. So, Kenny, I'm going to go to you. What did you think about Durant's performance overall, and then particularly down the stretch in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, Tom, and I think, you know, it's like you said, you know, the first half, he had a strong first half, 16 points in the first half, and then the third quarter, it was going back and forth, and we were just kind of questioning, you know, where is he? He had 1 point in the quarter, and, you know, then early in the fourth, he, you know, we talked about he missed a 3, and you're thinking, well, maybe that's it. Like, maybe he just doesn't have it tonight. And then he just goes on that stretch down. So the Warriors closed on their 11-0 stretch. And in that stretch, he had, you know, the 7 points in a row. And all of them were on LeBron as the primary defender, except for that one where LeBron had the screen set on him, and Draymond took LeBron down into the post, and then, you know, Durant just went one-on-one. And this again goes back to what we were saying in the last podcast. In Durant at the most crucial time in Game 3 of this series just went toe-to-toe with LeBron James, and he scored 7 straight points down the stretch. And the Cavaliers as a team didn't score during that stretch. And, you know, it just, not that I'm ready to crown him as the best player. We've talked about, you know, there's certainly an argument, but he's going toe-to-toe with LeBron, and he's winning. And, you know, there's certainly an argument to be made that he's, you know, creeping up on those coattails.
Yeah, I mean, he's making more of a case day by day. It's still, I mean, he's obviously aided by the crazy amount of talent around him. No, I mean, it's a point well taken. We've been given a lot of hate to Zaza Pachulia. You know, some of the Cavs role players deserve probably an equal amount of that, though. I mean, Darren Williams played 4 minutes and just did not look like he belonged on the court. Iman Shumpert, every time he touched the ball, it seemed like he was just taking a boneheaded shot. And pardon my language, but Greg, did you have any thoughts on Shumpert or any of the Cavs role players there?
I mean, Shumpert is a defensive player. I mean, there's a couple plays when he was guarding Durant where he looked good, but overall his impact wasn't enough to matter. And he's a streak eater, and I've seen him make 3 threes in a row one time on the Knicks. That was like 10 years ago, but it was cool. I don't think he's done that since then. He's been in a cold streak ever since. So, Yeah, I mean, you can't trust him on offense. And then Deron Williams just came in and airballed a three, and he was done from that point on. Jefferson has been solid all series, but he's just like he's not. You don't want to have Richard Jefferson in the game if you're playing in the NBA Finals right now. Maybe 5 years ago, but not right now.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm with you, Kenny.
I just wanted to add one point on the Iman Shumpert is like he looked serviceable at times on defense, but there was a couple plays where he just got completely lost, and I don't know if it was a team scheme that wasn't properly executed, but there were times when he completely left his man because he refused to leave Kevin Durant on a switch, and so maybe it's not his fault, maybe it's the guy he switched with, but that's just something that can't happen in the finals, and I think it was towards the end of the first quarter. It resulted in a wide open Draymond Green dunk, and it's just that kind of mistake in your game plan, and the Warriors are going to capitalize every single time.
And Tom, if I can capitalize on more of your time, I mean a huge thing for the Cavs. I'd say down the end of that stretch and the second half when they. Not only they took the lead, but they extended it a little bit. This was the first time we've seen a Cavs lineup that had visible basketball players going at once. I know Korver became a victim of the internet today, but Korver was playing defense. He was playing solid defense. I think we had a big debate on whether that charge should have been a charge or not, which, hey, they called it good. But yeah, with Kyrie, JR, Korver, LeBron James, and Kevin Love, I mean, they had a five that finally Golden State could not pinpoint the Iman Shumpert or Darren Williams, Richard Jefferson, whether that's on offense or defense. I think that's something of note. Maybe it's not.
All right, one more thing about the bench. So LeBron played 45 minutes and 37 seconds or something like that yesterday.
This is exactly where I was going with it.
And
Thank
he
you.
was +7. That means in the 2 minutes and 23 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever, he wasn't on the court. The Cleveland Cavaliers were -12. I mean, literally just take a bunch of shot clock violations in 2.5 minutes, and you're not going to be -12.
Like that.
That's all you got to do. I mean, just that bench did not do any favors to LeBron James yesterday.
And kind of jumping onto that, I think that's what we saw in the second half. And I don't know if this has been kind of a theme of the series, and I just didn't notice until that stretch at the end of the first half of the first quarter when LeBron was sitting. But instead of resting LeBron and Kyrie, they were just cycling, and there were plays down the stretch of the second half where LeBron would go into the corner and just stand there, and Kyrie would go one-on-one, or he would run a pick and roll with one of the bigs, and then the next time down the court, Kyrie would rest, and on those same possessions where he was resting on offense, he'd go back and instead of guarding Kevin Durant, he was guarding Draymond Green, and he was just kind of playing loose defense and wasn't really asserting himself. So I think that was certainly an adjustment made by Tyronn Lue, and instead of taking him off the court, he was still a threat to potentially do something, but he wasn't really exerting much energy. And I'll be interested to see if that continues in the next game.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate from the Cavs' perspective that is how they have to deal with LeBron James's rests. Instead of being on the bench, he literally has to take his rests on the court in any way he can, just because he was out on the bench for 2 minutes and 23 seconds, and they were -12 during that time, like Greg said. And that's just, that's got to be frustrating for LeBron. And I hate
Thomas,
to be jumping around.
If I can.
Yeah, please jump in.
On that same note, so don't jump around, is, if we haven't talked about the coaches almost at all, just because there is so much star power. I think with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the Cavs kind of were keeping a constant lead, I think at the 10, okay, get Curry and Durant back in the game. Let's see it. And Kerr kept him on the bench, which, I mean, is a lot easier when you have Klay Thompson, Draymond, and the rest of those guys. But, with 47 minutes, the fact that he was able to rest, two of his best guys for those extra couple minutes, I mean, if Cleveland does win, that's a non-factor, or maybe it is. I don't know. But I think that's something to note as well.
Yeah, and you certainly wonder if getting the rest on the court is the same as taking 2 minutes on the bench, because LeBron, the entire first half and into the third quarter, he was attacking the rim, and then we come down the stretch, and I don't know if it was just that they were trying to conserve the clock, but the only shot that he took in that stretch was a fadeaway jumper. He drove to the rim and then stopped and then took a fadeaway. He had 2 other drives that resulted in dish outs to shooters at the end of the shot clock. But prior to that, he had been attacking the rim, and then you hit the late game, and he just, I don't know if he didn't have the energy anymore, or if it was just part of the trying to burn out the clock, but he just didn't attack the rim at that point.
Yeah, and Kenny, one of those drives that you mentioned, I'm just going to run through some key possessions in the fourth quarter that we could talk about briefly. But one of those drives that LeBron had, he drove to his right and kicked out to just a wide open J.R. Smith, who nailed a 3 to put the Cavs up 6 with 3 minutes and 9 seconds left. Coming back down the court, you had Durant miss an open 3-pointer. That was when we were all thinking Durant's sort of off at this point. On the next possession down, you had Kyrie just dribble the air out of the ball until he kicked it to J.R. Smith, who then dribbled into the corner and took a fadeaway 3. That was just a horrible shot. Greg, I know you had some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not entirely J.R. Smith's fault, because he got the ball on a cross-court pass. He catches it with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. I mean, ideally, he takes one dribble and shoots it. But he's J.R. Smith. He just hit a shot. He's going to take 3 dribbles and into the corner and shoot a fadeaway 3. So that's just a J.R. Smith thing to do. I mean, that's probably the only shot of the entire 3-minute stretch that I absolutely hated by the Cavaliers. I mean, also Kyrie just dribbling the ball for 20 seconds didn't help at all. It passed the ball to I don't know, maybe LeBron. A good player. Just J.R. Smith was just feeling it a little bit too much right there. Ugh.
Yeah, no,
I wish we could show you all this shot that he took, but he just caught it on the elbow key, just took 3 dribbles into the corner and shot a fadeaway 3. It's just not a shot that anyone should shoot at any point in the game.
It looked like something a bad video game player would do. He literally turned, looked at the corner, and then faded away.
Or if you knew a cheat code of when you go and shoot it in the corner, it always goes in. That's sort of what that looked like to me.
It looked like a bad cheat code.
Yeah, NBA 2K. So after that, actually the Cavs got the offensive rebound. LeBron James got the rebound, and he saw Kevin Love at a mismatch down low, or had just had good position, and he threw it to Love, and Love went up for a layup, and Draymond Green got his hand in there and poked it away, and so the ball sort of just shot up in the air, and it created a transition opportunity on the other end, and Steph Curry just went down and hit just a wide open, easiest shot he took all night, just a wide open layup. And what you guys know, this pisses me off more than anything, but Kevin Love and LeBron James were just yelling at the refs after that, thinking that Draymond fouled Love, but there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter of an NBA Finals game. Get back on defense and contest this layup. Instead, Curry got a wide open look at the rim, cut the lead to 4, and it really was just sort of the impetus for what would happen next, I think. You had just another bad Kyrie Irving possession of just driving around. He missed a layup. But then he fell into the out of bounds. He got up quickly and actually stole the offensive rebound from Draymond Green. but then that's what led to the LeBron James fadeaway. Basically, what I'm trying to build to, guys, is Kevin Durant coming down and making probably the biggest shot of the night. Hit the three-pointer with 45 seconds left with that put him up 1. Kenny, I'm going to go to you here. What, if anything, do you think the Cavs could have done to prevent that shot?
I mean, it's tough because obviously Kevin Durant can hurt you in so many ways, but I feel like you have to pick him up earlier. You have to, LeBron James, I feel like is a serviceable enough defender against Kevin Durant. If anyone could guard Kevin Durant in any way, it's LeBron James, and he let him square up, and he closed out a little bit too late. And that's for Kevin Durant walking into an open three. That's as easy a shot as you're going to get. And I'm certainly not trying to make it sound like it's easy to guard Kevin Durant, because if you press up against him, maybe he can drive by you, but you still have help. And I think that's just too easy of a shot in that situation to give up.
Yeah, and I think one shot that I may have missed there in that rundown was the second drive that Greg was talking about earlier from LeBron James, where he drove on the left side of the court and he hit Kyle Korver, one of the best three-point shooters in the history of the game, and he missed it. Jake, I'll go to you on this one. Did you think that was a good decision by LeBron to kick it to Korver there, or do you think he should have been more aggressive there and taking the shot himself?
So that if you haven't seen the post-game interview, click this link. No, this is a podcast. There's no link. But look at the post-game interview of LeBron James talking about this, because a reporter asks him, which is usually, I don't want to say a Bush League question, but they asked him if he could do that play again. Normally a guy answers, we play a team game and, it goes how it goes, or they kind of dance around it. LeBron went dribble by dribble. He goes, I got Draymond Green on me. He's got 5 fouls. So I tell myself I'm going to take him left, and I'm going to go into his chest, try to draw a foul. He goes, Kevin Durant shows and helps in the lane, which draws Curry onto Kevin Love, which leaves Kyle Korver, one of the best three-point shooters in league history, open in the short corner. So he passed it to him, and he said he'd do that exactly again, and he's absolutely right. That's just one of those, it's a catch-22. I mean, Korver drains that. You say, wow, LeBron's one of the, that's what makes him different from MJ. He's the unselfish killer.
It's John Paxson.
Paxton Lynch, go Broncos. But no, it's I mean, that's the right play. And today's basketball, yesterday's basketball, I mean, if you told anyone on Cleveland that Kyle Korver was going to have an open corner three to kind of seal the game, I think everyone would say, yeah. So I had no qualms with that. But no, that's the right play.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Greg, were you jumping in there?
Yeah. Also, if Kyle Korver hits that, this series is very different. I mean, not only do you win that game, but now you got Kyle Korver going. Kyle Korver is going to show up for these next few games if he hits that shot. He's one of the best shooters ever, and now he just saw that he hit a game winner. He's going to show up in the next few games. Then you have J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver both going. They're going to keep it up, I think, if he hits that one shot.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you could kind of count on this entire series so far has been the Cavaliers just struggling from the three-point range. They, all year, were the best three-point shooting team in the league, actually, in terms of volume and accuracy. But in this game here, they were 12 for 44. That's 27.3% from three. And they were getting good looks. So they shot, this is from NBA.com. They allow you to see how open the shots are when they take them. And so they define wide open as the defender being 6 or more feet away from the shooter, and then open as being 4 to 6 feet away from the shooter. So the Cavs shot 5 of 12 on wide open threes. That's 41.7%. That's okay. But then on open threes, they shot 2 of 18, 11.1%. And I mean, at some point, this is a make or miss league, right? Like you're getting good looks, you're getting the shots you want. These are shots you made all year, and you're making 11% of your open ones. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I mean, sometimes the ball just doesn't go in. That's the problem. That just happens sometimes. I mean, they also may have been in their own heads a lot, like Harrison Barnes. Sometimes if no one's guarding you, that's a little bit too open, and you just miss because you're in your own head about it.
Yeah, and I think that might be, kind of what was happening with Kevin Love. And Kevin Love 1 for 9 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3, and he had a lot of very good looks at the rim, and he was having a very good game all around, other than shooting. And you just wonder if that confidence on the defensive end and then the rebounding side of the game can't carry through to the offense, then maybe it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. So speaking of not meant to be, Kenny, I'm gonna go back to you. I'm curious what you think is the most likely outcome. The series, I think we all sort of are in a consensus here what's going to happen. But Game 4 specifically, how do you think this is going to play out?
In terms of Game 4, I don't see the Cavs putting up much of a fight. I just have to imagine that the end of this game broke their back, and I don't know how much you can possibly have left after you lose a game like that. And I know we were talking about this morning, and you see the LeBron James was asked about the Golden State Warriors, and he said, I guess it's just my lot in life to be going against dynasties. And I mentioned this to you then, but right now the Golden State Warriors have 1 championship, and 1 championship does not make you a dynasty. So certainly it sounds like he's not quite throwing in the towel, but I don't see any confidence coming out of him. And I just, last year they came back from 3-1 down, and I think somehow in some ways that hurts them this year, just because Golden State's not going to let up at all. They know what can happen to you if you let up, and they lost their chance at a championship last year. And Kevin Durant came in with something to prove, and he's just been going all out, and I don't see them letting up at all. And I just think things could get pretty out of hand for Cleveland. Like at this point, they're just playing for pride.
Yeah, Greg, you think as a point of pride that they're going to really try and focus on just not getting swept? Like that's going to be a main a goal for them for game 4?
I mean, I think they'd certainly like to win Game 4.
No doubt. That's that was a dumb question. I'll take the rep for that one. But just like focusing on not getting, like, is losing in 4 that much worse than losing in 5, or do you think they don't really care about that?
I mean, we've all played sports. You have to think right now that it's not over. You have to think that, even if they're not trying to avoid a sweep, they're trying to win the NBA Finals right now. So if they can get 1 win, they can get 2 wins, they can get 3 wins, they can win it all. So I mean, just a momentum thing. They still want to win the championship. They're not giving up yet.
I hope that's the mindset, just from a fan's perspective and wanting to see good basketball. Yeah, but I think, Jake, you jumping in?
Hi, Tom. So one thing we missed that I'll be the only one to talk about because we went past it, but we were talking about big plays in the game, and I talked about the LeBron pass to Korver. When J.R. Smith was coming off his corner 3 that he bricked and took a terrible shot at, he also made a stab at the upcourt pass to Kevin Durant. He came off Clay, and Durant kicks to Clay. Clay buries the 3. I mean, we're talking Klay Thompson here, so it's a little different. But if Klay Thompson misses that, are we saying, Kevin Durant gave up the ball towards the end of the game, yada, yada. But, and if you didn't think I was taking up enough airtime, I sitting alone with my thoughts today, which is a dangerous situation. I was thinking, what does LeBron James tell this team? You know, they probably feel like they gave their best punch. And Ty Lue's not giving the speech. So what does LeBron say? And I mean, I think LeBron goes around the room. You know, we gave him a good punch, but we didn't. You can point to a few plays down the end of the game that guys made mistakes. And at this point, you name names a little bit. You're not throwing people under the bus, but you say, JR, you played a great game. You know, that one shot at the end, okay. Coming off Clay a couple times, that's not the play. You can't have that. You know, you go Tristan Thompson. Steph Curry has more rebounds than you. Win. Come on, big fella. And then I think you go, you know, guys, these guys are our rivals. Like, face the facts. 3 straight championship games has never happened. These are our rivals. And they want nothing more in the world than the table and went 16-0. So we could let that happen and they could go 16-0, or we win this game and it's 3-1. And you know what happens when it's 3-1. Boom! LeBron! I know you're listening.
Yeah, that was the one fan we were talking about. So I don't really have anything else particularly interesting to say about this series. I do want to pose one question though. I'm curious if you guys could take one player from around the league and put it on this Cavs team, kind of like the Warriors did with Kevin Durant last year. They could sort of had their pick of the litter and got Kevin Durant to join them. If you could take one player from around the league and put it on this Cavs team to beat this Warriors squad, which player would that be and why? Greg, I'll start with you.
I mean, there's 2 guys that come to mind. Jimmy Butler, good defensive player, and Paul George. Just Paul George. I know that the Pacers got swept by the Cavs, but they honestly put up the best fight against the Cavs until the Warriors played them. And that was all Paul George. That was all him going toe-to-toe with LeBron for 3 games, getting blown out one time. They should have won 2 games against the Cavs. Paul George he's one of the top players in the NBA. He could shoot it. I know after he came off that leg injury, he's been firing threes and he's been hitting them. And they need a player who obviously can shoot, who can spread the floor, let the lane stay clear for LeBron and Kyrie for drives, and then they need a guy who can create his own when that lets you put LeBron on the bench for 2 minutes and not blow a lead and him come back and you're losing by 10 after 2 minutes.
That would be nice. Kenny, I'll go to you next.
So I think the obvious answer here has to be, you know, Kawhi Leonard, who single-handedly is the only person to put up a fight against Golden State. They were up, or the Spurs were up, 23 when he went down with an injury and then got blown out for the rest of the series. He's exactly what the Cavs need, and he's a defensive player who can shoot threes and, you know, create his own shot when necessary. And we talked about this on the podcast last time, but the Cavs just don't have many defensive players. And, you know, having one of that caliber who is such a good scorer and such a good shooter would, you know, really turn things around for him. If only, right? If only you could take an MVP candidate and just put him on your team.
Jake, you have any thoughts?
No. Man, it's
Noodle the Doodle Dog.
You know,
Here,
Kawhi, Paul George. Yeah, that sounds great. The Cavs cap is messed up. I mean, their only chance to get something is flip Kevin Love, which I don't know. I mean, if you could turn Kevin Love into one of those wings we're talking about. I mean, Kawhi's not going anywhere. Maybe PG Tracy or Jimmy Buckets. But I mean, then okay, all Kevin Love's minutes are going to Tristan Thompson, who he just said's unplayable in this series. Go get one of those guys and convince them to play Zaza the whole game. That's kind of all they got for the next year.
It's
until
certainly not
leaves.
it's definitely not a positive outlook for the Cavs if they get swept here, because this Warriors team seems to be staying in place. Durant said he's willing to take less if it means keeping the core together, and you're a Cavs team who possibly is about to get swept, and you don't have any room to make any moves or any roster changes, and it's just very clear that you don't match up with this team. So it could be an very boring couple of years with the Warriors just routing the Cavs in the finals for the next 2 years until LeBron's a free agent again.
But at least this podcast won't be boring. And so that scenario is kind of just like a dream world that I was asking you guys about. I think Kawhi would be my answer there too. But Jake actually took me to my next question, which was a little more rooted in reality, and he touched on it a little bit, is if the Cavaliers do get swept here, it's hard to imagine LeBron being cool with the roster the way it's currently constructed. And Kenny talked to them about them being sort of locked up with the cap. But they do have trade assets, right? I mean, Kyrie and Kevin Love are valuable contracts that other teams would be interested in. And I'm wondering if there are any players out there that you think probably Kevin Love would be traded for, I guess, outside Paul George. That would be an impact player that would give you a greater return than what Kevin Love has given you now in these finals. Greg?
So my hope is that the Cavaliers hit the panic button if they lose, and that would mean LeBron saying, "Hey, I don't turn Kevin Love into Carmelo Anthony," and they trade him to the Knicks. I mean, Carmelo Anthony is not worth Kevin Love at this point in his career, but
he also doesn't help the Cavs much.
If they hit the panic button, I mean, Carmelo Anthony can help the Cavaliers. He could shoot, and he could create. He'd be a good player on the Cavaliers, and you just want the Cavaliers to panic. As a Knicks fan, you want the Cavaliers to panic and trade him for Carmelo Anthony, when right now Carmelo Anthony's probably worth a second-round pick or something based on how Phil Jackson has treated him.
Yeah. And I'm gonna, I agree that Carmelo could help the Cavs, but I just don't know how much. They have Kyrie Irving and they have LeBron James, who are capable of handling the scoring. Maybe it gives them a little bit of time to rest, but like we've said, their problem is defense, and certainly that's not Carmelo's strong suit, although I think he's been an underrated defender. I don't think he is by any stretch of the imagination a lockdown defender capable of pushing the Cavs defense to that next level. So I guess the question is, I just don't know that this Cavs team is constructed in the best way to help LeBron James. You have Kyrie Irving, who is a great offensive player, but a liability on defense, and Kevin Love, who's a good rebounder and has become on offense basically a glorified jump shooter. So it's just a question of, if they do hit the panic button, do they blow it all up? Probably not. They're probably going to keep Kyrie. Maybe they flip Kevin Love, but at this point, I don't think they get a fair return for him. And I can't imagine anyone who's gonna come in for the price of Kevin Love that's gonna turn this team around and make them a challenge to Golden State.
I'm with you on that, Kenny, and just I don't think if you're the Cavaliers and you're cakewalking to the finals every single year, then realistically, you're just one Golden State Warrior injury away from having a shot again. So I think you just keep rolling the dice while you're still in LeBron's prime. Jake, were you going to add something there?
Well, I was, a topic for another podcast, which we've discussed a lot, is GM LeBron. He likes to dictate a lot of the moves, and he can. I mean, stars have been doing that in the league for a while now. The Carmelo thing's funny, and I know Ken and Greg are rabid Knicks fans. So this is my moderator part of the show, and I'm going to put it on you, Tom Bone. Carmelo, LeBron goes into the Cavaliers front office and says, there's been a stigma about Kevin Love even after they won the title. They were like, is Kevin Love the right fit? I mean, yeah, it worked. But what if LeBron goes in there and says, hey, I want Carmelo. Go get me Carmelo and Courtney Lee from the Knicks.
So what if I'm David Griffin? What do I say to that?
You're David Griffin. You don't have a ton of control, but yeah, let's say you're the Knicks GM and the Cavs GM, and you get those coming over. You get those coming over from each side. Who's mad? Who's happy?
I think if you're the Knicks, you'd have to be pretty thrilled to get Kevin Love. I think he's still on his contract for a few more years after this. So, Kevin Love is actually. I'm a Kevin Love fan. You guys know that. His passing from the big man position, his rebounding, his shooting, and frankly, his defense has actually been pretty solid. I mean, last night, I don't want to use such a small sample size, but just as an example, last night he had 6 steals. He led the game in deflections too. He had really active hands. He was just defensively, he was really a difference maker, which is an odd thing to say about Kevin Love. I don't think that Carmelo or Courtney Lee is really moving the needle for you against. I think some people would even scoff at that idea that those two would help you against the Warriors. I think the Warriors are just so far ahead of this team that Kevin Love's talent alone is probably more important to you as Cleveland, if you're Cleveland, than those other two. But yeah, I'm afraid that tomorrow night is going to be the last night of NBA basketball of the season. I think the postseason's kind of wrapping up in an anticlimactic way. And it'll be interesting to see just heading into the offseason. We're going to keep these going, I think, for the NBA draft. And, if the Cavs somehow do prolong this series, then we will, we'll definitely cover that as well. But I'm excited to get to the draft with you guys. I know you're all bigger college basketball fans than I am, but I'm pumped to start talking, NBA draft.
Just stop,
Sorry, I cut out.
Tom.
Team Frank.
Just stop.
Sorry about that.
We still got a full series left. No, you're right. But hey, free agency and the draft, man. That's when the season's just getting started, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. The general domination by the Warriors is really, kind of numbed my enthusiasm. I guess the draft is a good way to say, hey, eventually these guys are going to get old, and the people we draft, they're going to be hitting their primes. So that's, I guess that's the bright side.
Greg, any bright sides from you?
We could do like a 10-part Westbrook podcast throughout the summer, I think, right, Jake? Are you interested in that?
Jake alone just yelling.
Russell's muscles.
Yeah.
No, there's always stuff to gossip about.
Yeah.
Are you wrapping us up, Tom? Are you saying
I was trying to, I think.
We should wrap it up. It's been a long time.
Till game 4 then?
Yeah, until game 4.
Game 4.
We'll see you guys back in Oakland.
We'd like to thank 7-Eleven, our sponsor, and LeBron James, our fan.
All right, fellas. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Godspeed.
Night, boys.